Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. This week our guest is Sina Pleggenkuhle, Director of Programs and Partnerships and Market Manager at the Minneapolis Farmers Market, Minnesota's largest open-air farmers market that's open 7 days a week, rain or shine, from May to October. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I'm a longtime farmers market manager, Vendor 101 co-teacher, and education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager and consultant, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, and the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer and marketing director for Farmers Market Pros.
And pretty much Spike Lee. Because after
and everything.
That's right. Justine's become an amazing filmmaker while dealing with the recordings from Intense, the Farmers Market Conference. It's amazing.
Always a new skill set, just cropping up.
That's right. Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Blue Owl Promos, helping market managers and vendors create market name recognition and an additional income stream by supplying branded tote bags, hats, water bottles, and more to meet any budget. Shoppers love those market-branded shopping bags. For more information on how to increase your income and your visibility, click the Blue Owl Promos logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
All right, well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. Today we are so excited to be speaking with Sina Pleggenkuhle, Director of Programs and Partnerships and Market Manager at the Minneapolis Farmers Market, Minnesota's largest open-air farmers market that's open 7 days a week. Wow. Rain or shine, or maybe even snow, from May to October. So welcome to Tent Talk, Sina.
Hey, everyone.
You do some winter markets too sometimes, right? Between October and May?
We are a year-round market, so we have limited hours in the winter. Typically, it's just Saturday and Sundays, but it kind of goes along with the season. So December is all about our holiday trees, Christmas tree vendors that fill up every single stall. And then we go into eggs, meat, cheese, specialty food items. And with Minnesota being such a short growing season, we just go ham from May.
Gotta go hard.
I like it.
Go hard or go home.
That's right.
Yes.
7 days a week. That's
I like that. Limited hours, just Saturday and Sunday. That doesn't sound that limited to me.
Sounds like a lot. It's limited if your usual hours. Yeah. Or
Right?
7 days a week. Oh my gosh. Well, Sina, we'll start with a little bit of like personal, professional background just because we got to know you at the conference, but just for our listeners, can you tell us about like your background and what led you to end up in the farmers market business?
Yeah. Well, I was excited to see you all in California because that's actually where I was born. But I left California at the young age of 3 to Minnesota. My father moved here because of the snow. It was job security. So we are a refugee family. And the opportunity here was snow. And my dad's been plowing snow since I was 3 years old.
Oh, that's a good business plan in Minnesota.
Wow.
If that's your business, I think you have to get out of California.
That's right.
So yeah, in California, our family, my parents were younger, so they were the first to speak English. So they kind of naturally became leaders in the community, helped the community, the Cambodian community with translations and a lot of things like that. So I kind of always grew up in the behind the scenes side of the world of helping the community and supporting our family. And so that roots of the farmers market kind of got me into this world. Being in Minnesota, we're very welcoming to immigrants and refugees. So you'll see a lot of different types of communities out here that's pretty diverse. One is Southeast Asian, and my family would come to the Minneapolis Farmers Market because it was a reflection of what they used to do in the villages in Cambodia. So we used to come out to the market, and back then it was, I mean, right now we can get 10,000 people roll through our market, but back then it was even more people, and it used to be like a sport. My mother used me as a pawn to to stand in line at vendor stalls while she was at other stalls. So that was my growing up childhood experience of this exact market that I'm at now. So when the opportunity arose to work at the Minneapolis Farmers Market, I kind of had all those flashbacks of my life growing up with this market and being a part of the community, and I craved that, so I wanted to come back.
So you're saying that it used to be bigger? Because it's really big, right? But are you saying it used to be busier than it is now?
Do you all know the term satellite market?
No, not exactly.
Not really.
Okay, so that's what we kind of call it out here. Those are the smaller neighborhood markets.
Okay.
So here in Minneapolis, we have these sheds, these signature red sheds that were built in the 1930s. So we have a space that's built for a farmer's market. We have platforms where farmers can just roll up their truck, open up the door, and they can slide their cases right onto the platform. And then we have satellite markets where are within different neighborhoods where they're a little smaller. They're not necessarily made for farmers markets. A lot what I saw in California, with Little Italy, it's on the streets, that sort of thing. So the satellite markets didn't really exist back then, as when I was growing up. So the only place that we could go to was just our market, because there's a big one in St. Paul. We are the Twin Cities. But yeah, so it would just be more people. I mean,
Gotcha.
we have people now, but it would just be more people.
So it's spread out as there have been more markets that opened around town.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
I mean, that makes sense with like weather out there. Just
Sure.
the elements make it a little bit more difficult just to pop up in the middle of the street or a place that's not meant for that type of commerce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got to plow that snow first.
Yeah.
Before you can pop up.
Jealous about that shed, though.
New statement.
Yeah.
Really jealous about that shed.
Yeah.
That we would love to have a standing, covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to tow cars.
That's right. You wouldn't have to tow cars. Oh my gosh.
We still have to tow. We have a very interesting nighttime life in our market. Very urban. Last year, we had a situation of street racing, and somebody left their car in the middle of a vendor's stall, and we actually had to lift it with using a vendor's forklift.
Oh my god!
Oh wow.
I hope you have a photo of that.
Situations like that.
Wow. That's, I wish we could do that.
Yeah.
Our farmers don't bring forklifts, but.
Well, that's true.
I mean, they'd have to drive them very far away from their farm. But yes, we recently had a Lamborghini left on the street in our market.
Yeah.
He was probably street racing, I'm just assuming, by the paint job on the car. And the tow company wouldn't tow it because it was too low to the ground and too expensive, and they don't want to get sued and blah, blah. We're in California. So we just popped those tents around it.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
exciting.
there you go.
Yeah.
And immediately went to printing raffle tickets.
Yes.
We got to work with what we got.
That's
Oh my
right.
gosh. Oh, our job is certainly weird. So when did you officially start working for the market? Like not just shopping, but when did you start there?
Officially?
Yeah.
Officially, I started May 2020. But I did have a relationship with the market prior to being employed. I was working in the food and wine events industry, and the market was actually one of my clients. So I had a wonderful relationship with the Minneapolis Farmers Market for probably a couple of years prior to. So about 4 years in total of me professionally working with the market.
Oh, nice. So you're very
cool.
familiar.
Yeah.
May 2020. What a time.
What a time to start.
to get into markets.
Yes.
Oh, well, it sounds like you have really made it work. So
I think it's a New York thing. If
Yeah.
you can make it during COVID, you can make it
Yeah.
any time.
I mean, that was like
If
my
I can
operations
make
side
it.
of working at the market. I never did the back end stuff
true.
until COVID. And
yeah, Justine just jumped right in, just jumped into the
Trial by
fire.
fire.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So can you explain a little bit about the organizational structure of your market? Like how is it connected to the Central Minnesota Vegetables Growers Association?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in short, we call it the CMVGA. So the CMVGA, we have our vendors. They are members of the association. They vote on a board, which is all farmers. And I work for the board, and so does our general manager. We are the only two paid employees of this market that's full-time paid. And then in order to sell at our market, we also have another satellite market, and it's called the Nicollet Mall in downtown Minneapolis. You just have to be a member, and then there's different types of memberships. So we have our vegetable grower membership, we have our prepared food membership, seasonal memberships. So yeah, it varies. It's very complex, I would say. It's been around for a long time, so the rules and how we operate changes, but the heart of it all is that we are farmer managed and we put our farmers first.
I have to ask a question about what you just said. You have 2 paid employees? Or just 2 full-time and then also some part-time? Just 2?
We have 2 full-time employees, myself and our general manager, and then we have seasonal help with maintenance and food access interns.
Because that's a 7-day-a-week market with 2 employees. It's kind of boggling my mind.
What am I doing here? This is way too much work.
It's like, how are you talking to us right now?
Right. Yeah. Sina is in her car at the market right now, so maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why. That's right.
Do you work 8 days a week?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Wow, that's a lot.
27 hours a day. That is a lot. Yeah, so on that note, so your market schedule, so you're open 7 days a week. What are the hours of those markets?
So we are open daily, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m., rain or shine, and sometimes snow, like you said, Bridget. So it's 6 to 1, and Monday through Friday, it's a different market than Saturday and Sunday. We have 170 stalls, and we have every nook and cranny of this market filled with vendors, Saturday and Sundays during the height of vegetable season. Monday, you're going to have a really Monday through Thursday, you're going to have a really relaxed feel at the market. It's not everyone. It's about 20 vendors. We fill our middle shed as much as we can. Typically, it's majority vegetable growers, and the customers are a little different. I think it was awesome during the pandemic because you got a lot more space. You get to spend a little more time talking to your farmers. And then on Saturday, it's a madhouse. It's what did I learn at the chaotic joy.
That's right.
That is what busy markets are.
Yes.
Do your farmers and vegetable growers, do they sell a lot of wholesale stuff Monday through Thursday? Are you seeing like restaurants come through and things?
Yeah, Tuesday is a big day for restaurants. We get really awesome local chefs that want to support local. They build relationships with our farmers, and that could be a day where they pick up orders. And this place is built for it, right? Like we can pull in a semi full and get produce out to places. We have other markets that buy from us to resell at their market as well. Right. So Tuesdays are a big day for that typically. It's a really big day for our flower farmers as well. So for example, we have an apple vendor who has a shop at their farm. So they come on the weekends, but on the weekdays, they have customers go out to their farm to shop directly with them. And they also carry some of our local farmer bouquets there. So they'll come pick that up on Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
That's great.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. So at your market, are produce vendors reselling, or is it farmer only? What's your policy on that?
Yeah, so that kind of sets us apart. We do allow resellers at our market. It's very regulated. In Minnesota, we have a very short growing season. So we have resellers here. The purpose is to kind of supplement produce depending on what's in season. So if tomatoes are in season, they can't sell tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
And it's a big part of our work for food access. Our market borders a food desert. And we have the type of produce and the type of vendors that we have in our community that we serve, we have, I think what also sets us apart is communities have built relationships with our farmers to grow produce that fits their cultural recipes and what they want to eat, right? Like it literally starts from the seed. I was asking one of our farmers, I was like, why do you grow these type of squashes and what are they? You know? And they're like, well, somebody from a Caribbean island said they were looking for it. And I told them to get me a seed. And now I've been selling it for the past few years. And it's specifically for a community. And a lot of times that's, you know, they come through our EBT token exchange program and they're buying bushels and bushels and they're freezing it for all winter long. And there are families from like Iowa. I think somebody from like Illinois came to our market for specific produce. So yeah, that's kind of the thing with resellers too, is that they're more than, some people come to the market and they get confused. Like these bananas are not local. Well, duh, we don't grow bananas in Minnesota. But everybody say hi to Mal.
Oh, hello.
Little interlude there as Sina reaches out of her car at the market and deals with things that market managers deal with all the time on a podcast.
Away.
I love this so much.
Love it.
We should record at our market.
So do you, is there anything that you do at the market to designate which sellers are producers and which are farmers? Are they in different areas or do they have different signage or any of that?
Yeah, so with our 170 stalls that we have at our market, our members have an opportunity to basically own those stall spaces. And those stall space, there's 2 vendors of ours that are designated resellers. So they have a spot at the market that is theirs, that they're there all the time. And so that's their spot, and they're known as resellers. But yeah.
So the customers can tell the difference between whether they're buying from a producer or a reseller.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But we do need to do more work on educating our community on the purpose of our resellers. We're finding that I think it's also too with being the Twin Cities are we always say across the river, the Mississippi River, over in St. Paul. It's like border wars. But they pride themselves in being local only.
Gotcha.
And it sparks conversation, and I enjoy it. But if it isn't talked about, then you come to your own conclusions about it, and it can be misinterpreted. So I know that we need to do more work for it of the bigger picture of it all.
No, that's great. I mean, and there's definitely different opinions and perspectives on whether or not resellers should be there. We've seen farmers too that say, "Oh yeah, we like having those 2 resellers over there because that keeps people coming to the market as opposed to going to a big grocery store because they can also get their bananas." So I do see that we can't legally do that in California actually at markets, but I have heard that some farmers think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially it allows you too for the market to be open 7 days a week.
Right.
Where if you didn't have people selling items different types of year, people just might be like, okay, that's only my summertime thing. Yeah. I'm not going to go there.
And there's nothing available at the market because there's not really a lot growing locally during certain times of year. So having that resale option is important.
Yeah.
Oh, this year is a great example of it. In Minnesota, we are, I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, but I think we're okay without having frost from today on forward. But I think last year we're about 2 weeks behind. So that's going to be reflective on our produce too. So, I mean, everybody is telling me that, this weekend is our kind of grand opening of the season. And I know that I'll have a handful of vendors that are not going to be here because they're just not ready yet. We're behind. And so we need our resellers, especially with our EBT program. It's limited. It's from May to October as well. And people are knocking on our door. When can we get our tokens? So
yeah, it's all dependent on that weather. If the weather is not, super pleasant, even during that May and October, kind of window, like what are some things that you do to keep shoppers and vendors engaged when the weather is not great? And I always like feel weird as a Californian asking this question. I feel like we ask people who are like in Seattle, like, what do you do when it's really rainy? And they're like, yeah, we just live with the rain all the time. It's fine.
What do you mean? Why would that be a problem?
Why would that be an issue? I'm like, oh, if we have like a dark cloud in California, everyone just shuts down and they stay home and they call in to the market.
They listen to sad music.
Yeah,
they just stay in bed.
like go back to sleep. But
my goodness. Yeah, I would say when I was in California, because, it was that time for us, it was just so depressingly cold and everyone was sick of it. But being in California, I just was like, every little flower, I was like, oh my God, so beautiful. Like the sun.
I know. We were looking at succulents, I think, together at the conference. And Sina was like, look at this succulent. I can never have this in Minnesota. And I was like, wow, like things I take for granted living in San Diego.
Yeah. So we try to, especially for me, like one of my old bosses nicknamed me Sina Joy, because I'm just a very positive. I try to stay positive no matter what. And as a market manager, I try to just get everybody to cut out all the negativity and let's think about the positives, right? We have this saying of the market is our happy place. There's a lot of time to be negative and complain, but when we're here, we're happy, right? We're at our happy place. Our customers came all this way to come visit us. And guess what? When the weather sucks, they're not here just to walk around. They're here to shop with you. They're here to talk to you. So like make the best of your time. But I could say all that, or I don't have to even say all that because our farmers are so good at, we never cancel. I can't cancel because they're so determined to come to the market.
I love that.
Even when it's crazy snow, we are technically on city property and they're in charge of plowing for us. And they don't wait for them. They bring their own plows and plow the market for us.
I mean, is your dad there? Tell us the truth. Is your dad there in the morning?
Get to work.
He's like passing out business cards.
In the office, yeah. He's always like, girl, you better be careful over there. I know it before everybody else.
Well, that's good to hear that you guys just like make it happen no matter what, and it's true. The farmers are there. That's their livelihood. Like and people have to eat. What are they going to do? I mean, you could go to the grocery store, but that doesn't feel like a good exchange, I think, for people who are really shopping the market every day or every week. So,
well, if you've got a covered market, I mean, what if you're going to go out to the grocery store in the weather, you can go to the farmer's market in the weather.
Yeah, for sure.
Differently.
And our sheds make it easy for us. I think we're fortunate in that sense because it's like when the rain comes, everybody just ducks under the sheds and then the stalls are even busier.
There you go.
Absolutely.
It's a benefit.
So I was going to ask you a little bit about branding. So like the markets our market management side, we're called San Diego Markets. It's sort of a nebulous name. People look at it online and go, oh, they manage all the markets in San Diego, which we do not. And while it makes it feel very official, it's also really hard to protect that name. And I think you and I talked about that a little bit when you were at the conference in March. So your farmers market name is the Minneapolis Farmers Market, unlike the satellite markets that are probably named for their individual neighborhoods. So what kind of advantages and challenges does that create, having that name that sounds like you do it all?
Yeah, I mean, it is very difficult. I mean, I'll tell you this right away. Our market is on one city block. So we have the 3 signature red sheds on one city block. Right next to us is a privately owned market. And they just, it's like the wild, wild west of farmers markets over there. It could be anything.
Yikes.
Yep. And it's a wonderful family. I call the owner Mr. Rogers because he's the best neighbor ever. But it can be so confusing for our customers because their name is Minneapolis Farmers Market Annex.
Oh my
God. Oh my goodness.
Yes. And then in his city block, he also owns a building that he gave to a really cool business that is meant for dog owners. And dogs are not allowed at the farmer's market. He has signs up, but he doesn't really he's not like, get your dog out of here. On our side, where we're run by our farmers, but we are on city property. So we have to be really on top of our rules. And they're like, but there were dogs over there, or there was this over there. And so it's like, we are constantly having to educate people that we are different. This is, the Minneapolis Farmers Market. There's scenarios with, it happened to me today. I plugged in, I was at a farm and this morning, and I plugged in Minneapolis Farmers Market, and it gave me the wrong address.
Oh no.
Somebody else claimed that they were the Minneapolis Farmers Market, because we have our acronym MPLS.
Right.
So instead of spelling out Minneapolis, I put in MPLS, and it brought me to a different location. So it can be difficult. But at the same time, I mean, good publicity, bad publicity, it's all good,
True,
right?
Right. That's what they say.
Yeah.
They're talking about you one way or the other.
Yeah, they'll like brag about wonderful things. It's not our market, but it's our name, but it's a good thing. I don't know. So there's different ways to think about it. But I think with our long history of being around since 1876, when you're in our space, it's very apparent that we are the Minneapolis Farmers Market, and the other satellite markets. I'm part of also a collaborative group called the Farmers Markets of Minneapolis. So there's over 20 plus farmers markets in Minneapolis, and all the market managers get together every 2 weeks for a meeting just to see how we can help each other out and things. And like, for example, we're working together on a PR campaign.
That's great.
Yeah, the PR rep wants to do everything at my market because we're, it's in our name. I can't say no to that sometimes because I'm advocating for my farmers. So we kind of get opportunities like that because of the bigness of who we are and the name that we have.
I love that you have that local group, though. How long have you been doing that?
The group has been around for a while. When I first started, we got really close. As you could imagine.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were starting in that time when farmers market managers gave up the idea that we should be competing and thought, let's just work together to stay alive.
COVID bonded us.
Yeah, I thought I hated you.
Yeah. a lot of trauma bonding in 2020.
Oh, for sure.
Less border wars and together.
Yeah, I love it. I love seeing farmers markets work together. We're constantly kind of preaching the reminder that we are not competing with one another. We compete with big box grocery stores. So let's just make sure people are shopping at a farmers market.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Well, for our listeners out there, you probably recognize Sina's voice because she was part of our What's Your Why episode, which was so fun. We had a bunch of our conference participants sit down with me for most people, they were a little shy and they talked for 20 seconds. But Sina had this whole written thing and it was really beautiful and it made me cry, totally choked up while we were recording it. But a big part of her why was talking about her personal identity and the importance for inclusivity measures at her market. So we talked about this already a little bit with your farmers and the different things that they grow. But because your market has such a diverse population and you host farmers and vendors from all over the world, can you just talk a little bit more about what that brings to your market community, or how you feel like that makes your particular market maybe a little different than other farmers markets in different parts of the country or different markets you've visited?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I'm such a homebody. I love Minnesota so much, and the Midwest in general. So I've always just known what I have, right? And in going out to California, even just, to visit y'all, I was wow, it's so much the same, but a little different, and I think in California, there's so much diversity in the crowds. When I was walking through those crowds, I was just there's all types of people here. And in Minnesota, even though we are so welcoming to immigrants and refugees, and we have so many different communities, it's really white. It's really white out here. I mean, I have a German last name. I met a wonderful white man and married him out here. But there's a lot of scenarios where what was it? Shonda Rhimes said, first, only, different, FOD, where there's just a lot of scenarios if you're a person of color that you're going to be the first or only or different one in the room. And I think that it's just so important that is understood in especially roles in leadership, and especially with organizations that have a really long history, because it comes from the system, right? Like I think about this farmers market itself. It was built in 1876, and some of the rules I'm guessing have stemmed that far back. And I look around and I wonder why there aren't other types of farmers here, and I believe that the system has set itself up to not be welcoming to very many new vendors. Like, for example, I'm throwing an event for new vendors with the collaborative group. It's called First Taste, and we're inviting, it's a media invite only event where we're inviting new vendors or vendors with new products to showcase their stuff to the media. And we really don't have very many that our market doesn't really have very many that can contribute to that. And I believe it's because we have a system that's set up for it to be very generational, so you pass your stall on to your children and your children. And then where does that leave room, or where does that give opportunity for someone else?
Yeah. Is that partly because it's a farmer run board, and so they vote on new vendors that are coming in?
Yeah, but that opportunity doesn't come around very often. So we have an annual stall drawing, and the last person who won was a wild rice vendor that used to be a daily vendor, and he's been waiting 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Okay.
That's wild.
I mean, it's a conversation we've been having because once we put a vendor in, I know there are some markets where they just wipe the slate clean and they do a whole new application process every year, but we don't do that once they're in. Unless they violate a rule or something, they stay with us. Right. We'll have people retire or go into another business or move out of state or what have you, and then we have openings. But other than that, they stay there, and that's always seemed in one way to make sense because the folks who helped you build the market, of course, they should stay and keep their business going. But at the same time, that effectively keeps out new people, and in a lot of cases, it's new people that are minorities because they didn't have the chance back in the early years to acquire land or to build their businesses. So it's a very complicated question right now that we should have been asking for years. I do find it encouraging that more of us are talking about it now.
Yes. And it starts with the conversation. And if we, own it, that change needs to happen, then we can start. But if we're just like, because it's hard when everything is so amazing, you know, if there isn't a problem, then why fix it? But we need to still do the work toward that. And I think it starts with someone like me. I don't think I'll be able to fix it all. Maybe I will. I don't know.
Fix it all, Sina. We believe in you.
We're rooting for you. We believe in you.
If anybody can, you can, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, that's what I'm just trying to do is just have these one-on-one relationships with our farmers and eventually get them on board seats. And because I know that it's not our leadership isn't reflective of our community or our membership. Over half of our vegetable growers are Hmong, but we don't have one Hmong board member.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
And the one that we did had quit. Why?
Well,
Do you know why?
It wasn't
Did they just not
for
feel
them
like
to be
they had
the only person on the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were the only ones. Do you think they just didn't feel like they were really included in the process, or couldn't make their voice as heard as it needed to be?
Being a first only different can be very difficult if you don't have the self-love and mindset that you need to be courageous enough to be in that space, right? So yeah, it could have been all that you all said. We don't know, but it's my job to try to figure that out. So that's definitely part of my role that I made for myself.
Sina, are you the first only different Cambodian market manager there?
Yes.
Yeah. Good for you.
Going through the Rolodex, I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you. So that's just the fact that you're there is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So, Sina, do you what are the shoppers like at your market? Like, do you see the diversity of your farmers and vendors reflected in the people that are coming to buy from the farmers?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love our customers, and it changes all the time because I mean, I'm sure, I mean, with California, you just seem like farmer market heaven. Just like everything is always available, it seems like over there. But I'm sure that's probably not the case. But right now is my favorite time of year. We're rolling into plant season. So all of our greenhouse starter plant vendors are starting to roll in. And so it's a different crowd. It's the gardening crowd. That's really who we serve in the spring. And it is pretty diverse, but it's, like I said, reflective of our community. So it is the white mom in the suburban household that's coming out here at the beginning of the season. And I'm trying to work harder on getting more people of color to come to our market and garden, have their own home gardenings. And I think an avenue for me to do that is through our SNAP EBT. There isn't really education around how far you can take these tokens, and you could buy, you know, pepper plants and tomato plants with these tokens. And I'm learning that it's a language barrier. So this year we're going to record videos of how to use our program in different languages. And how I learned that was from our Hmong vendors. So the Hmong language is written with English letters, but not a lot of the community can read it. So all of our farmers are on their phones listening to stuff. And I'm like, what are you all listening to? They're like, oh, it's community programming and it's on YouTube. It's this or this or that. So I was like, you know what? Forget this like written down translation stuff. Let's talk to each other. And so we're going to do these videos. It's going to be cool.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Just like meeting the community where they are and like giving them what they need to access information.
And that's so smart too. It's just like, I think a lot of times in our goals for DEI and our goals for inclusion, we don't actually listen to like what the community really needs or do that detective work to be like, hey, I wrote you all these pamphlets. And then turns out they're not going to be read. And that was just wasted effort.
Yeah.
But like actually having relationships with people in different communities, and then they can tell you like, hey, we don't read this stuff. We listen to this stuff. Or we, you know, I don't know. That just seems like a really good example of doing the work it takes to know the community that you're trying to assist.
Yeah, asking the questions. Yeah.
Our job is so weird that I'm going to add detective to our title.
That's right.
Private
Absolutely
eye.
right.
Our business card is turning into a brochure.
That's right.
These are all the things. Well, I feel like we do that when we're asking our customers, like, what's important to you? Like, do you want like a shopping list kind of marketing? Like, do you want like, what do you want to know? And we started including like where to park in our email newsletters and stuff, not because like we necessarily were thinking about that, but because we were getting reviews about parking and we were having customers ask us or having customers say like, hey, we just don't know where to park, so we can't come shop your market. So we include that kind of information. I think if we take that same mindset and say like, hey, we want to be inclusive, like what do like diverse populations need from us in order to come be shoppers or be vendors or farmers at our market, and just take that same mindset and just use that same work that we do and ask questions and listen when people are giving us feedback.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sina, do your Hmong farmers, do the people in the stalls typically speak English?
You know, a lot of our Hmong community has been here for a long time. Like 30 years or so is what I'm finding is the eldest of our elder Hmong farmers, and they speak really good English, but you would never know unless you actually said hello. You know,
gotcha.
I think people have this, they don't know how to just start by saying hello. And one of the things that I have planned for this year is we're actually going to have a one-on-one interview with one of our elderly Hmong farmers, and we're just going to hear her story, you know. And I think having that sort of introduction will get people the tools to figure out how to actually start a conversation, create those connections again, because that's what farmers markets are all about, right? We're here to know where our food comes from, and you'll be quite surprised. But yeah, there are a pretty large percentage still that does not speak any English, and we get by with body
charades.
movements.
Yeah, little charades. We see that here with
Pointing.
we've got a lot of Hispanic farmers in our area, and oftentimes the younger generation will be translating, but the original farmer, kind of first generation farmer, may not be speaking English in the booth. Somebody asked me about, are we going to offer Vendor 101 in Spanish and other languages? And
That's a good question.
my question was, if we offered in that language, then how do they operate at the market if they can't speak English to the customers? So there's every question has a lot of other questions that generates. So
Put on the detective hats.
Well, Sina, it's been great talking to you today. Thank you so much. We're amazed by what you're doing there. I still don't understand how you're operating a 7-day market with 2 employees.
Great mystery. We need to use our detective hats to figure that out.
Crack that case.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah, we're gonna go down to 1 soon.
Say what now?
I'll be here if anybody wants to be my partner in crime or in farmers market life. We are looking for a new general manager.
Yeah, you know what? I think everybody in the country is desperately looking for help, including us, by the way. So
I've been seeing it on yours, everybody's, but I don't know. I'm not worried. I think people will show up when they need to show up, and it's just farmers markets are a part of our lives. And just like how I found my calling, I was not a farmers market manager before. But it's a passion project for me too. And I think there's somebody out there with the same passion.
Absolutely.
I think you'll find
and of
somebody.
course you're convinced because you're Sina Joy.
That's right.
Thanks for being with us
I like
today.
that optimistic viewpoint.
right.
You're a magnet for it. You'll find someone.
Love you being here. Nice talking to you, and we'll see you again soon.
Great
Thanks,
to see
Sina.
you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today, and big thanks to Blue Owl Promos for supplying farmers market vendors and operators with everything from food packaging and uniform shirts to branded merch, and for supporting Tent Talk, the farmers market podcast. To get more information or place your order, click the Blue Owl logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Farmers markets are all about connection, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. Connect with people just like you from various parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in the terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. If you're actively involved in a farmers market, please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. If you're looking for further education, check out our online course offerings at farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll have another great episode next week, so tune in.